December. Excuse me. January 9th, 6 p.m. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. First item on the agenda is approving minutes for our December meeting. They should be in your page, folks. Hopefully you got a chance to look at them. If you did, and there's no issues, looking for motion to approve the December 2022 minutes.
Thank you.
Somewhere.
Second.
Secretary, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Whoever just joined with the iPhone, you just hit mute, please. Thank you.
Okay, item 3 on the agenda, tax abatements. Chris, I'll let you take us through that.
Absolutely.
Part of the agenda.
Yep, these ones are pretty straightforward. Quantum of Berlin, which is the new sports facility that's going to be going down on 4 Bud Road. This had come up previously, but we were waiting until P&Z made the decision on it. It was approved December 15th meeting. It is an eligible use of tax abatement policy, and it would be for 5 years because they're spending over $1 million. So we're looking for motion to approve Quantum of Berlin for 5-year tax abatement for the investment in the new sports system.
And what's the schedule?
50, 40, 30, 20, 10, I believe.
54, 30, 20, 10.
Verify that. They basically need to build the building, basically, and get a certificate of occupancy from the time. So once certificate of occupancy, then it officially goes on to the tax rolls and the tax abatements and start that from. So I just did this on another project. So yeah, that's the big one. That's the goal post, if you will. Yeah. We're here's in here. What the heck looks good? Yeah. Chris, you don't want shares on you.
That was yes.
It's time for the party now.
Yeah, you know.
All right.
Regarding the tax abatement application, push down the second.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this here is something, all 3 of these should do when they get COs. So let's put on.
Okay,
No, we need to do the application before they don't get the tax abatement until the CO. But we need to take action on it.
Okay, so we could take action.
We can take action. The tax abatement is not going to affect until they get the CO. Yes, please, because I need to bring them to council for their blessing before they get that. I'm sorry, someone make a motion and it was stipulated.
no, we did not yet, so we're looking for a motion to approve the tax abatement for Quantum on the 5-year schedule of this section, just close to us.
We don't have to do it passively.
Yeah, I could have sworn.
No, almost always do it before you, I don't wait until the CO. Most people can make it the tax abatement. Well, I mean, it's really like a big difference, but I mean, we need to go forward and get these. Part of it too is there's also an agreement in place that we now sign with every tax abatement person, which our corporation council put together. So I want to make sure we also get that signed in place as well.
All right, we'll go. I'll make a motion if it's done correctly as far as the
Corporation Council is concerned, that we approve their tax statement for 5 years.
And you could also send motion pending the CO.
Then they can see them.
Right,
Good addition, thank you.
second somewhere? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Next, Chris.
Chesky Ford is currently under construction for the new Pro Elite Commercial Truck Service and Sales Center. This one in New England, $6 million investment, which make them eligible for a 7-year tax abatement. Leave that one. Slightly different. So 7-year would be 50-50, 40-40, 30-20-10. That's for over $3 million of this.
30-10.
30-20-10. Yeah, this is the one we put in for Forest Machine.
That's based on the cost of the,
Based on the cost of investment, more than a $3 million investment. It's
the same scenario. Just have.
Now, 50, 40, 40, 30.
Second, Mr. Copeland, any further discussion? No, the motion's for 7 years.
Correct.
Good.
It's not a CEO.
Based on a CO.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Simpson made motions, Copeland second, further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstained, motion passes. Thank you. Priority,
Last one is Prairie Electric. They are building a brand new building just out of Tyler Equipment on the former growing site. It is $1 million plus the build out. They didn't have the exact figure on the build out, but I'm sure that's going to be quite about $1 million. That would give them the ability to do a 5-year tax abatement. Same as, yes, exactly.
okay,
Second.
Copeland made first. Bachman second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Okay,
It's also the CO.
involved,
Yes. Got it.
okay. Roll with Fortress 2, what do you want to talk about first?
We have a slight modification to the site plan for 55 Steel Center. The property itself, which is D&E on maps that are in the packet. D&E initially was going to be 60 units with underground parking. Due to a couple of different factors, including cost and some timing, it is going to be 50 units with no underground parking at this point. Essentially, not a big change, more kind of letting you know what they're doing. If there's particular questions, the political entity is here from Newport Realty Group. And in order to make that happen, there is a text amendment which we'll discuss a little bit further down the line, but essentially what the text amendment would say, actually, I want to just hand it out now because it has to do with what we're talking about, so I'm going to do that. So this gives a little narrative on what is happening as well as the text amendment and here. Yes, I did. So essentially what the text amendment would say is in your packet. Only business uses shall be located at street level in any building located within 75 feet of Farmington Avenue. Residential uses cannot be located on the public way unless the building is located within 75 feet of Farmington Avenue. If you click to the next page, you can see where the 75-foot marker is. Last page, what I handed to you. You can see the red line is 75 feet. Quite a bit behind that at this point.
D&E buildings remain, market rate.
Yes, it will. The only thing is we did agree to do one affordable unit in that building based on a recommendation requiring planning and zoning for the reapproval of 10 Steel Boulevard, which is building A. So there will be one affordable unit in that building. At 80% of median income. If you need any additional like financial history of why we had to make this change, I'd be happy to kind of give you a quick rundown. I know we've got a pretty busy agenda, but I'd be happy to do that if you need to.
I would say you might as well let it roll and tell us, Tony, why we're changing things. What was the original approval for? How many units?
Let's see, I think on the front page, it's.
Here it is, Tony Glenn, Newport Realty Group, 710 Main Street, Planksville. You'll see a variety of things in the packet. We did try to do an overall letter describing, why the change. So initially, this project, building D&E, 55 Steel Boulevard, was approved for somewhere around 85,000 square feet. Actually, it's approved for a little less than 85,000 square feet. As we began to go through our designs and architectural, because of the parking under that building, the building exploded to almost 85,000 square feet. And our original budget for that, the original construction budget for that building was right around $9 million. We actually hired an outside firm to do a third-party review for us of the cost, and it came in at $19.5 million. Very easy math. That building, that based on the rents, that building cannot handle that kind of debt for that building. So we had to go back and keep the project moving. We challenged our architects, kind of work with the town civil engineer, we worked with our civil engineers. What we basically did is we removed the lower level of that parking, brought the building down to grade. So what that did was it required us to put residential units at grade at the building. So really, it's an economic reason to keep the project going, though we made that change. And current zoning doesn't permit ground floor residential units. So we worked with the town, Jim Mahoney, Chris. We actually had a meeting with the planner to help us understand what's the best way to address that change. So what we did is, so we helped to avoid any plethora of additional first floor apartments. We put in the 75-foot line that we have on these plans here. I think we're going to see it on smaller plans. So on the color, there might be just grabbing it, Chris. On this colored plan, you can see a red dotted line. So anything 75 feet or back from that line is what we're proposing for a text amendment to allow multifamily units. Again, 75 feet north of that line. Or I'm sorry, 75 feet. The dotted line represents 75 feet from Farmington Avenue. So anything north of that line is what we're proposing for a text amendment to allow multifamily units.
How many parking spaces are you doing?
I think we actually worked with the town to get a little bit of a variance, but a kind of a reasonable ratio. We're 1.2 spaces per apartment. 1.2, yeah. What we typically see is, even the two bedrooms, we're seeing one car park just because we've got the bus out front, we've got the train station next to us. We're not seeing a big demand of parking. And that's not just our project, that's a lot of projects that we're involved with as well. So we're seeing less parking requirements. But this site, this new plan will have 50 parking places versus we've got 63 parking places for the 50 units. Prior to that, we had 80 parking spaces for 70 units. So pretty close in the same ratio.
Okay, this is not counting the parking that's off the boulevard.
We had to include parking for the entire development. So part of all the parking on the boulevard, in front of where Hot Box is going to go, where 10 Steel Boulevard is going to go, what we have for a parking field in and around buildings D&E, which are the apartment buildings, we're going to segregate right around 63 spaces for the apartment. So we'll mark those spaces.
Do you feel comfortable if there's gonna be enough space?
Yeah, we're just shy of 200 parking spaces for that much development. Granted, it's a dense development, but it works for us.
Because I look at, yes, it could be just an occupant of one person. You could have two, and then you got visitors.
Correct. And we have a lot of off-peak parking too that we see. For example, the Hop House restaurant will be open, 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And by the time they close, folks will park all night for their apartments.
Will that 75 feet be effective in building A? Then there's,
We're already approved for 4 apartments in that building for building 8, but they're on the second floor.
okay.
Yep. These text amendments, we try to write these, working with the towns, just to make sure they're not spot zoning. It's we're not a proponent of that, but also to make sure that there's enough of a restriction where we don't cause any other towns, or in Berlin, we don't cause issues. We have all this multi-family being developed on the first level of these buildings. Anything on the first level should be commercial, is what our feeling is, and we see that by this map. Just like our other building, 840 apartment tower, first level is all commercial.
What's the ETA on building C, D, E, as across the street with the other
Something
ten?
like that. Building A, we're in for permits as we speak.
I don't know, that's.
We've already got, no, that we're gonna start that pretty soon. We've already got 10 starting to line up for building A. So we should be in the ground in the next 90, 120 days there. And that building should be ready for occupancy by about April 2024. We've got some bids already for some tenants. Building C is under construction as we speak, if anybody's been out there. That building will be ready for occupancy around April or May of this year.
This year.
Your restaurant, yeah. And then buildings D and E, we're working with the town still on a revised remediation plan. That's, I know, it continues, and we caused some of that change because of how we redesigned this building. But we have no reason to doubt that we should be in the ground in that building second quarter this year. We're financed, ready to go. We just need to kind of work together with the town on a remediation piece to it. So if I had a guess, and I had this conversation with an associate of mine today, we're thinking 2 years, we should have this thing kind of wrapped up. There's no reason not to. Tenancy is strong. Just to kind of give you an update, building B, I think I reported last time I was here a couple of months ago. Building B is the first building we just completed. We have all but 3 of the 2 bedrooms, apartments occupied. And we have all but about 1,100 square feet of the first floor commercial space. That we got 1 small space left.
Tony, I have a couple questions for you. Any other questions? Is the revised building the same footprint?
No, there's a site plan that'll show it's changed. It's gonna be a smaller footprint overall.
And originally,
They go to the colored one thing?
you want to,
Yeah, you can see building. Prior. This building mounted here before.
right, which is in this diagram right here.
That's correct.
All right,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
so
The footprint shrunk.
the footprint shrunk, okay. And the number of units, the original rendering, the original plan, but now, how many units are we talking? Is there
70 versus 60 versus 50. 60 in the old, 50 today. And we kind of go on nine steel. We're gonna do less 2 bedrooms, more 1 bedrooms and some studios. Just we can't seem to get really good traction for all of these 2 bedrooms, so we're gonna change that mix a little bit.
and the fact that you pulled the parking out from under the building, we're gonna have more pavement and less greenery, I suspect.
Coverage won't change all that much except for that one area that we see on the color version. Yeah, we'll have a little bit more. We'll have a little bit more pervious coverage here.
So it's gonna be paving instead of building is what it's gonna be.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, okay. And then the last question I have. With respect to the text. Who did we work with already at the town to write this text amendment?
Chris, Jim Mahoney,
Mahoney, Maureen
Maureen.
had her input, and everyone's cool.
and I think Joan saw this as well.
I do not know. I know the 3 of us did.
I know we had a discussion,
Myself,
also
Cory.
Mayor Mark and then town manager Arosha were involved in some initial conversations of what we were trying to get. We went to Arosha and Mayor Mark initially about plans before we wanted to go anything to make sure we were gonna get kind of a thumbs up to at least go forward with them. We did. Part of that meeting, Joan was also there, so we discussed the need for a text amendment.
Maureen is you know, it's important for the commissioners to know, you know, who's written this darn thing, you know, if you're looking for our endorsement or support.
Yeah, I mean, essentially it was, yeah, it basically was written in cooperation between Tony and Jim, input from myself and Maureen. To make sure that it fit what we were looking for.
Chris, is this text amendment specific to this site? Or is it?
No, it would be throughout the zone.
75 feet from Farmington Avenue, so it's specific to Farmington Avenue. As you can see, 75 feet is pretty far back. In most of the properties, if you're going to do multifamily 75 feet back from Farmington Avenue, you're gonna be behind the building. So you wouldn't even see it from Farmington Avenue. And just a quick heads up too, we did share with you elevations, drawings of the new building.
Or in the packet, yep.
And we thought it was important, yeah, and there's a colored one right there too. So we wanted to make sure we share that with this commission. Kind of give you an idea of what the record.
Yeah, they were 11 by 11.
As you know, the town engaged with Brian Hughes for architectural review. So the town's already engaged with Brian, he's already been sent to him, and he's working directly with Tom Carey from our architectural firm to make sure we address any architectural thoughts or ideas or changes you may have. But we thought it was important, we should give you an idea of what direction we're heading in with the elevations.
Any other items?
Question. If no one do, okay. Wall Street. My question is, if you 6 months, 8 months, whatever, break ground, things compress, and then we're starting to see things are slowing down. Supply side's gonna start picking up, and this project's gonna slow down. Is your best going to the first? And would you preclude yourself, or is this something that you're comfortable with?
It's a great
Well,
question.
if I got, like, say if everything drops 25% in cost, would you, in a perfect world, rather see it the old way, would you come back and try to do that? Or is this where you're most comfortable?
We learned a lesson in conjunction with the town that a building with under the building parking is just not feasible in this market, even with the decreased expenses of 25%. The tack on the new interest rates, so we got to redo pro formas way too many times. But I don't think you go back to that, Chris. We don't think it makes economic sense to us. No, we don't think it doesn't make economic sense to us. So we like to stick with this particular proposal going forward.
Anything else, commissioners, for Tony? Okay, then, Tony's here and he's on the agenda, sir, and we've got our support tonight. So I guess we
Are they going to P and Z or have you gone already or are you going?
We still have to go to planning and zoning. You'll see in that card, when you get a chance to take a look at that, you'll see we have to go planning and zoning for the text amendment, number one, which we're looking for your support tonight. Number two, we have to go for site plan approval of this new site plan, and then a use of this size and on this site, and it's predicated, all of our approvals are predicated on a special use permit. So we have three things that will need planning and zoning. And all the plans have already been submitted to planning and zoning. I think as of last Friday, so we should be on their February agenda. So we're trying to continue to display, no dilly-dallying. We're gonna get on this agenda, get going on this particular building.
Sure, you want to take this on, we have the actual proposal for less units, we have the text amendment, I'm not sure if we're gonna do that in coordination, if you'd rather discuss the text amendment later, I could probably do it a number of different ways, I don't know.
Is there anyone here, is there anyone opposed to what Mr. Opposed?
All right, so I just don't want to say it would hamstring for saying that the market metrics aren't going to carry on parking, it's going to price these things out. Market, we need to want to succeed. This is what we're trying to do.
What we do, probably one, then the other will take on the project support, and then the text amendment is a second vote then.
I'll just vote for the whole thing, right? We're all cool. We're all good with it. Just vote to, let's all have one vote to support the project as a whole. And PNC, subject to PNC.
Sure.
Dotting our
All
i's.
these necessary improvements.
Yeah.
Let's assume that the project.
Mr. Capola then?
Yeah, second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passed.
Thank you as always for your support, we appreciate it.
Alrighty, yep, we're all set, Mike. Thank you very much. Next one, we'll bring out here quickly historically, and this is just more for perspective sake, which is Seton self-storage. We had spoken with them a number of months ago when they came in for the text amendment. Excuse me. And this was going to be a facility that was going to be just north of the party hall. But it's going to be on the table here. Slide your back. This is the layout of the site itself. Second. So we do have some aerials here. Yeah, that's all the part of ours. So right now, yes, I believe the plan, Dennis, if you can just stand up quick and just give us a quick. I believe it's a front building and then rear building and all the garage doors face inwards, then you face the turnpike, correct? Yeah, I've got a rendering. You know what, you have that one. Yes, yeah, that's all right.
So this is one we came to back in, I think it was May. Approved a text amendment to allow adult storage facilities in the zone.
I don't clear planning and zoning.
Yeah, and then we went in July, they made that text change, so now we're here. We've got wetlands tomorrow night, January 19th, P and Z.
I'm sure project almost one more day by executive.
Is that his? I think it is, yeah, I didn't do it right. So, the key was, you may recall, there were a number of restrictions in the text amendment to make sure, although there are 4 or 5 sites, I think Chris had found that would be potentially applicable because we made some changes, reducing the amount of frontage requirement on the Berlin Turnpike. The key, though, I thought, in my discussion, I was here with this gentleman back in the spring of 22, was to have a good distance. We have an increased distance from the rear, so we're far away from the residents. You know, this zone is only a 50-foot setback. This is a mandatory 90-foot setback for 90 feet back from any residential. We've required robust landscaping. That's part of the plan. That's in front of Maureen and her P&Z.
How far back from the state line?
We're talking the front or the back?
Back. You're talking about the back.
Okay, the orchard, that's orchard, right?
Yeah, 90 foot, 90 in the front.
Yeah, the site one here.
I think it's on. This is wooded angle back here, isn't it? Yeah,
Isn't everything elevation changed?
there is. Yeah, there
To the
is.
south. What you got? These 50-foot. No, setback from the well steps. Setback.
Yeah, every property in the turnpike is different.
So here's the well,
Definitive.
here's the state property line. The crossing.
That's state,
That's state, right? Yeah,
so it's not.
it's state owned. Okay. All right, P and Z will address that.
It's the south part of the site with width of over 550 feet of vegetated. South part. And undisturbed.
What do you want to work on? So you're not including.
Drainage, it strains into
Oh, I see. Yeah, to the north.
right.
Yeah, if you look at the map on the screen, there is a bit of a jog here for the right of way that the state has, so. There's quite a bit that's there.
But it's 90 feet in back, you said?
Yeah.
Yes. It's just 90 feet was part of the approval order to make sure there was enough distance between the residence interior and.
Still gonna plant some evergreens back there.
Quite a deal.
Say plant some, there's also a lot of natural growth, which is.
I have a question, when we discussed this. Property. Talked about the text, and there was a parcel that was on the other side of the road, right?
Yes,
That we wanted to make sure the text amendment didn't exclude,
That's right.
right?
That's right. You did it.
Which is,
there's four properties that are eligible.
Steve McClurry's property.
This is the only one on the southbound side. On the northbound side, you have where the Hawthorne is,
Yeah.
the Days Inn is, and then the vacant lot next to it. These are the only 4 parcels that fit all of the criteria underneath the tax abatement. Because
Under text.
sorry, text amendment, because we were looking at having this be in an area of town that is undeveloped to a large degree, these parcels, but also not have a lot of them. The intent kind of looking at it was, if you look at just undeveloped, one northbound, one southbound, and knowing the information we had gotten previously on some market data, which I went to, would cover a lot of what we currently don't have on the self-storage side with 300 plus apartment units.
So we have units that are around climate control.
Yes.
I think one of the things that, at least from a P&C perspective, that was appealing to the fact that the driveway ease up with the break in the median. And actually really makes sense. Save the traffic is very positive in the building.
How much space is between the 2 buildings? The doors are facing inside,
There's, oh, the 30-foot widths. Right.
so a box truck or something. I have an issue.
Hopefully not, like my client has been doing this for quite a while, I suspect. And you know, to a large extent, the spaces are at different sizes, but you may recall, we want to make sure this is not an incubator for the wrong type of, like a dirty operation, or operation migration. Has materials that's really designed for more of a big contractor, but those that the areas like no bathrooms.
This is 2-story here, this federal.
Nice.
Lower entrance, they're not running.
Those are 2-story. There's about 50,000 square feet of footprint and about 82,000 square feet of spaces.
I was gonna say the property dips quite a bit to the rear, I believe, if memory serves.
We're looking. We're good. All right, Mr. Chairman, what do we need? What do you need from us?
Well, let me first just mention one thing. There's a lot of people here tonight, and I don't know who's who. So if there's anyone that is affiliated or is a neighbor or has a horse in a similar race, wants to say something, the whole crowd, you can just stand up, raise your hand, and we'll try to recognize you, because I don't know who's here for what. So that being said, everyone can speak if they want. Just raise your hand and stand up. Now, I guess we'll be looking for Chris Edge. Developer is looking for us to endorse this particular project. Support. So, Mr. Dan. Support this particular project.
Make a motion that we support this project for the Connecticut self-storage. 2200 Berlin Turnpike, Berlin, our town.
Okay, second somewhere.
Like a second demo, please.
Mr. Basho, any further discussion?
So there were no changes to the first time you presented as far as the buildings or anything like that.
But there were some changes to the, I think there were some changes to the render, because it was really kind of a, we actually made it more attractive. We was concerned about the visibility from the.
Right, no, I meant not the landscape.
Okay, yeah, no, very much.
Gotta go through P&Z on that.
Yep, yeah, and then that's gonna be a big thing. The look is gonna be a big thing with them.
Also, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So, next one here. The next one is, I believe, 586 Deming Road, was formerly the Micron building, across from almost the driveway for Home Depot and Michael's. It was purchased a couple of years ago by a gentleman. Since then, the building has gotten a completely new paint job, mowing and the like. Gentleman here by the name of Joe Cassio is looking to open up a virtual golf facility. I believe I put the narrative within the packet, called Mulligan's Indoor Golf. Using about 8,000 square feet of the entire building. Essentially,
Get them all again, it's nice.
hopefully, yeah.
I guess so, you own the place, right? It's mine too. It's not that.
We'll also have a 440 square foot putting green. Yeah, basically, this is the building on the right before you get to soccer and baseball.
Last guy.
No, don't have any building on that last one. Right next to the building, it has baseball and soccer. Coming towards the,
Ties old building,
yeah, times exactly, I sold the building.
still on it?
No, he does not. I sold the building and the new owner, is working with Mr. Cassio on this, and I myself work very closely with Mr. Cassio on language. We actually had to add some language to allow indoor recreation. The language had said either like a fitness or something like that, and it didn't fit under it, so we had to go forward with the text amendment, which we did. I think this is a great opportunity considering it's located right next to two existing sports facilities. And really we take an industrial building with very low ceilings, which is almost barely useful for industrial use. And it's gonna take a nice use to bring people back into town. So that's kind of where my piece of it is. If you have any particular questions, Joe is here to answer them. Actually have a site plan as well. What they've done is they've actually included additional parking spaces, which can be, let's see, where's the road? That's the river. Okay, so if the road is where Chris is here, this is existing parking and then additional parking along the rear and side if the need comes to that side to visiting something. So at present, it's just the parking in the front.
It's on firewood.
That is what has happened to date, yes. That's a nice use of the building, and I'm excited about it.
So it's 100% indoor, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. Good, Floor, what do you?
So, yeah, my name is Joe Cassio, lifelong resident of Weathersfield, Connecticut. And, since retired from 33 years of banking history, I just have a dream and I've been golf for all my life. And with my friend with pros, teaching pros, club pros. And, Mr. Lyshak, the owner of 586 Deming Road as well as 570 Deming Road, has been an acquaintance of mine for some time, and we came to an agreement for me to hopefully renovate this building, make it prettier. He's done a lot already just to make the aesthetics of a old industrial building come back to life. And that was one of our negotiation items. You know, Ted and Ty, you mentioned his name. He's a friend of mine through the purchase of the business, been there and split with him. Great. We've asked him to move down.
He's a both sort of journalist or whatever it is.
Down Guilford, yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited to be able to bring this to life. Chris and I have had multiple meetings on this. We anticipate 8 virtual golf hitting bays. If you haven't noticed the papers recently, there is a lot of these facilities opening up in the area. You have one right in Britain, one just opened up again on Sunday, January 1st. Really just a great way to not tax the current town situation. So it's very low impact town. Very clean, neat operations, no loud music, no smoking, you know, just golfers coming to do what they do. And with the Connecticut season of golf, it ends, you know, September, October, and then we really don't get outside until May. If the golf courses can allow the wetness or the thaw. So just thought it was a great opportunity to bring it to Berlin, have the facility. And, if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to try to get you to speed up.
So. I do a lot of events for clients. Christmas tree shops.
Not familiar with it.
Do you have the ability to host events? They can bring in catering and or things of that nature, so that if I wanted to bring 20 clients in. Or something like that, you have that, because I'm gonna say that's gonna be part of your business. That people are gonna come.
Absolutely, yeah, so a company like Asa Abloy, wanted to host an event there, they could do that, and they could either provide catering, or they could bring their own food. And when I say be
We
catering,
have enough restaurant in town, we're probably part of this, you know, we're doing like restaurants.
correct, and that's what I would like to do, because in the narrative, I think it's also a great opportunity to, in my vision, be a board about that size, or a board about the size of that map as you walk in. And all the local area restaurants, you know, could have their displays rotating or scrolling through there. As well as upcoming events for the facility itself, because with the track and floor system. They also allow, which is really cool, a high school to play another high school, the same course, but don't have to attend the facilities. It's a virtual type of scoring system where you can see what the other schools are doing. So, and then if someone were to come in and practice, I know this question has come up, you know, about teaching. Yes, we will have a pro that can teach. Are you gonna do group lessons? To your point with a big group, no, we're not. I've never seen group lessons happen in an indoor facility, choosing more one-on-ones. And what happens is the customer comes in, they'll scan a card into the new TrackMan system. And that card will, whatever they do on the screen, will detail to the pro virtually, again, an email from a locker sent over to the pro. They can analyze that swing without it being on site, saving the customer money, saving time, and that pro can actually come over to the facility and help the person themselves one-on-one with a, you know, pinpoint accuracy of what's going on with your swing, how to fix it.
If you brought a group of people in, one of the things I thought was really cool was that each foursome was able to pick the course that they want to play in each bay. They can play a different course. That's gonna be the same.
That is
That's a
correct.
good thing.
There's over 186 courses worldwide with the purchase of the TrackMan 4 system that we are getting. That will allow you to choose that, and as TrackMan adds more, you'll actually be able to get one, because it's updated every day. The software.
I read your narrative, how many bays are you gonna have?
So
Eight
the
bays?
8 bays is the proposal, yes.
Now, is there gonna be like a separate area for like being out of a sand trap or anything like that? Is that what I read in there?
No, but the system itself does depict the sand shot. And although there is no sand on hitting strike, they call it a strike zone. There will be a sand shot illustrated on the screen for it.
Almost like. How the ball goes if it's in a sand trap. They go off the tee. That's one. I don't
It's one
know,
of
I was
doing
watching it,
things.
it's pretty fascinating how they.
Yeah, you go with
Another machine.
three buddies, bring your own cooler,
Makes adjustments.
whatever,
Yeah.
and you rent it for 2 hours, whatever it is.
Right.
It's all similar to stuff like that. I wanna play TPC, I wanna do this,
It was pretty cool.
you pick and choose.
Yes.
So you have no issue here with zoning, and you just need site plan approval from
It's special permit.
Okay. So there's really no,
Building.
really no.
Yeah, looking for support for the project.
Parking is good.
Yep, and then again, as I said, they have numerous spots. I think they can add up to 20 spots.
How big is the actual building?
About 20,000 square feet.
You're not gonna be using all that, it's the parents, right?
I'm actually renting the whole facility.
Right, but I mean, it's like your
It's
space, so.
It's where the Thai, so if you know the Thai family, when they added on that back. New buildings of the existing 2 that were up front, it's that whole back area. That will be utilized, so it's the new area that they put in place back in 1983.
The main area for people to sit down. Well,
So, yes, there'll be I will say it's in the plans that have been circulated, there is we call it a bar area, but we are not going for liquor permits. So it will, and I don't think we will, number one, I don't want that responsibility, I don't want the insurance. I don't want the what goes along with drinking to happen at that facility, it's a golf facility, it's not a bar. So in that area, I think it's depicted on the west side of the building. And it's more for the patrons to come in, right? right?
So-
And if they're waiting for their booth, open up or be clean, because one of the things that I realized after playing in many of these is that in between play, it's important to go clean and make sure that the next group can come in the time of fashion without the other one rushing out. So I left my brain and my scheduling a half an hour time slot, though I am losing hours on the simulator. I think it's important not only for the traffic flow, but also for this part where people will be sitting around doing nothing.
Where's the entrance?
Entrance will be on the east side of the building. It'll be adjacent to the machine shop and golf and baseball facility next door.
Right over his way.
Okay, so this whole area is gonna just be old machine shop?
Yeah, this is just storage. It's all my storage. So. Proposed to have a parking lot on another. Very long time, I guess we have. Yeah, the other.
You address the signage, they'll be able to see it on the street.
In the street, we have not talked about signage per se, officially, that's something that I do have to. Get addressed.
Yeah.
Because the Micron had a Micron sign on the building, I would just basically like to just on the building have a Mulligan sign. And there was an old dilapidated, awning that came off the building, that's gonna get replaced.
Yeah, have a freestanding sign, that would be, which is a road.
My next question,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to see if you put it off on the side.
Yeah, that always helps, and find out the setback of that.
Setback.
That's
Yeah,
easy.
we'll have that discussion with the assistant planner.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good point.
That's kept secret.
We don't want any best kept secret.
See any issues?
Okay, well, that's,
Run over to this.
Mr. Cassio's here with. Yeah, report.
Pretty nice job. Yeah. And I believe that was the big difference.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, I guess, yeah, Mr. Cassio's here for the endorsement or.
I think this project makes sense.
See any reason why we wouldn't endorse this for this project?
No.
Okay, well, I'm looking for a motion, I would. Open race motion to support the project, second someone.
Thank you.
Since we get any further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Thank you very much.
Motion passes.
Plans back.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. You need, still around? Okay, we're good, thank you.
Take care, Joe.
Thank you, but I'm gonna pack it back together, pack it back to Fran over in the.
Oh, you want that?
All right, Chris, what do we got next here on this number 4?
Sure, this is a proposed amendment concerning funeral homes.
Okay.
Give me a second, have the. I said he's dying to hear it. Oh. You gotta admit it. Okay. Good to help yourself, that's right. I would say probably a year and a half ago. The gentleman came and spoke with us briefly on this. They own the crematory on Christian Lane. Brookside, or Christian Lane, and you were looking to essentially get a text amendment, but why don't you guys clean it up? You'll get this correct and I won't, so why don't you take
I think that's yours.
quick, like, but 5 minutes to kind of tell us what you're looking to do. And then text it up a little bit.
So, we're here seeking your approval for, of course, the text amendment, limited funeral service. Basically, as the law states right now, when I take somebody into our care, body cannot go to, the remains cannot go directly to the crematory. For the families that are contracting and want their loved ones to go to that facility, have to have a funeral home license. So basically with this board, what we did was after talking to the state, he made it very clear that all the funeral home combo, they have to be subdivided. So the remains must go directly to the funeral home portion. Once we. Okay. Must go to the funeral home portion. Once you obtain the permits from the town, then it can go to the crematory. This is for basically. Has nothing to do with selling funeral services. That's why in the text amendment, it's a limited use. That's why we're naming the license. Transport funeral services. It's for families who ought, nothing change, the biggest thing here is nothing changes. These are families that already want their loved one to be cremated here and then contracted here through Bloody Funeral Home or Bloody Cremation Care or another.
Funeral homes that we serve. So what he's also saying is, out of this funeral with all the restrictions, nothing, no products will be sold to the public, no services will be sold to the public. So it's not about competition, it's about functionality.
It's about
When we started 15 years ago, cremation was here. Okay. Everything's evolving, businesses evolve, and we want to be functional as a business.
But
So to be functional as a business,
next thing, while I just get back to that last point, I got a little bit of time. Since the families are contracted, nothing changes. The only small thing that changes is when the body could go to this building. Which just cuts our labor in half.
so it's about functionality,
It
not
literally,
selling services to the public. We're not selling merchandise, we're not acting as a funeral home.
the funeral directors here know that you, by law, once you have a license, every license has to have by the Federal Trade Commission a general price list.
General price list, there is nothing for sale to.
You have to hand that to each family. If I try to sell it, I am then, we're here breaking the law, the text amendment, we're trying to do zoning. Meaning this one use, which has no change, no traffic, nothing except.
When you can come to the crematory.
So.
Yeah, the whole purpose of the text amendment is to be able to, you know, before to have a body in a crematory, in Connecticut, you first have to obtain permits from the town. So, basically, this building would be subdivided to have a funeral home portion and a crematory portion. And this funeral home portion would only be for storage of the bodies prior to going to the crematory. So there wouldn't be there's no space here for public services, there's no space here for anything besides storing bodies to the walk-in, and this part, should probably maybe explain more, but this isn't for anything for public services.
Exactly.
It's essentially to comply with state statutes that require you, and regulations that require you to store bodies in a funeral home before obtaining the cremation purposes. That's functionally the only difference.
And
This
this
is
we have to
happening in
be,
Connecticut right now.
always have, the body must remain under the umbrella of a licensed funeral home. Before those permits are pulled, then it can go to the crematory. So that's the only reason for having this funeral home, which we're going to name it, of course, funeral transport services, meaning just to make it very clear to everyone.
So I have a question. Sure. What do the state regs read? And is there such a thing on the state regs as a limited service funeral?
No, so it would essentially be licensed as a funeral home, but the town is limiting the uses at which can be performed at the location. So the state, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been a certain, thumbs up to this idea.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah, and this is not a license. The planning and zoning has nothing to do with any of the license that by the state, which would approve them to approve funeral transport services to operate as a funeral home. Now, planning and zoning can restrict uses at the facility, and the uses are going to be in line with the proposed text amendment if enacted. So yeah, it doesn't functionally change anything with the state. It's the town is limiting the use.
So right now you have to bring the body to your funeral home. To the
So
crematory,
yeah, we have to.
because that's on zone. Which one?
So
Take up that-
make the removal,
There,
so we
Just
wanna,
the next
we
day,
wanna
reload.
handle your loved one as little as possible, so. To pick up a track cremation and bring it to our funeral home and unload at the funeral home, to wait for permits, just to load it back up into the van to the crematory is an unnecessary drive. Those are the times of the past.
And to be
And
clear,
we are
that
moving forward, and that's the future.
to be clear, the funeral home that you're referencing is currently operating, that's in New Britain. So bodies have to go here, there, it's unnecessary trips, you know.
Now, if any funeral homes that we cremate for, and we cremate for great funeral homes, our current funeral home in Middleville, Doolittle in Middletown, O'Brien's in Bristol, they can all utilize the same thing and they love it, okay? Because if they have a direct cremation, for a cremation that's even for a memorial service, they can then transport straight to us, we handle their loved one, it cuts down on handling, unnecessary handling of the body, and then we transport the ashes back to them. And we cremate for funeral homes all over the state. So this doesn't just for our funeral home, this is for the funeral homes that we serve, okay?
I just wanted to go over here quickly. So on the last page of the, I believe the information I gave it to you, and we didn't, I apologize. So it looks like a couple things are happening here. One, the addition of funeral home, limited service, which would be added as in the definition portion of what we're talking about.
Yes.
Where right now it's just funeral home. And then you're essentially saying in GI2 zone, this funeral home limited service would be allowed. So those are really the changes we're looking to make from our planning. So
Yes,
just so I understand.
yes.
So basically what it is this funeral home limited service, a state licensed funeral home without the authority to conduct public visitation hours, funeral ceremonies, memorial services, graveside services, church services, embalming, or sales of merchandise.
Right,
Yes.
no sales of any merchandise at all.
I'm just looking at the regs because I'm trying to get my brain around exactly, because there's a couple different pieces, that's why.
And if you look like at the form that was handed out, the funeral transport service GPL, but the right someone, that's what outlines all of the different
You have to have that, and every, you know, when they come inspect, there's laws. They inspect, they take their action center, well, now it's actually every 3 years. So they take that, they look at that. Now, if I were to sell a service, this isn't just like selling, it's highly regulated. Your name has to be on the death certificate, it has to be on the cremation permit, it has to be on the crematory authorization form. I would actually have to come to this building to pull the permits, because transport funeral services is in Berlin, I have to come to town hall, like, you know, for cremation. That's not what we're here for, and we don't have anything. That's gonna be our general price list in the text amendment. And it'll be regulated from the state.
This is all about functionality. To make
It would
us-
literally cut our labor in half. Because of the volume of cremation.
Want to have any particular question? Give us a whole lot about.
Yeah, you're still picking them up.
No, but if you want,
Funeral home,
no,
just stay the same.
yes, so,
You're saying the trip in Britain.
follow me on this.
Yeah,
It's a small statements.
it's a very,
Yeah,
it's operational.
I just want to all back then.
That is driving.
Yeah.
Over the. Next door.
exactly.
But it's under this, the umbrella of the funeral, it always has to be under the safeguard of a licensed funeral home. The state,
Directors.
Rob Minkowski, I did put in a pamphlet with his email, he wanted to encourage anyone's email. I had great links and conversations with him on how the others work that are combos and all for different limited uses. And he knows the layout of our facility, the state has no problem with licensing, it's just.
We're not
Europe,
planning-
with Europe.
This is happening in the state.
Well, our support. Gary, support, we have no jurisdiction to make it approved.
Right.
Here to
Either we're here,
we're stuck. Want to make that clear that we don't
Yes.
have legislative.
Yes.
So I have a couple questions for you gentlemen. Number one, are you putting up a new building or?
No.
So you're using
No,
an
it's-
existing
Yep.
building?
No structural changes.
There's no structural changes and there's gonna be no more traffic.
Right here, one second.
Absolutely nothing.
So this is the funeral home portion, it's already there, we are gonna have to make this room is unoccupied. This big room right here, this is gonna be a full walk-in cooler.
And
And
you're,
additionally, this is the entrance to, the door will remain the same too, you entered the crematory already. It's changing a few things in the back of the section that we subdivided off to the funeral home.
Basically, the only thing we're using right now is this very front portion is the crematory. This is not being used.
Can you help me and orient me, where's the cemetery?
So the cemetery is right behind,
Cemetery,
this is
cemetery
next to
portion,
Yeah,
adjacent to on this side.
and the road is to the left, Christian Lane is to
The
the,
road would be up here,
all right.
right?
Ben, so you're on the wrong side.
Yeah,
Nope,
you're right,
nope,
yeah,
Cemetery's over here.
Oh,
yeah, it says there, okay,
oh,
now
I'm sorry,
I understand that.
cemetery.
Okay, so the other question I have for you gentlemen is this limited use facility. Is this only for crematories?
It's only for families that are contracting for cremation, so they're coming to Brookside no matter what.
So if you don't have a crematory, you cannot get a limited use facility?
it would be pointless.
It'd be pointless,
Yeah,
thank
you, I'm not that, like, you wouldn't necessarily need it, you know, like, you could technically operate. And then perform these services in conjunction with another crematory, technically, it's just that this is to allow for the, someone who owns a crematory to, more efficiently transport bodies, and not have to transport the body away from the crematory. Instead, you can go directly to the same building that the crematory, or a building down the street, or anything like that. You don't have to be attached or joined to a crematory, but it works, basically it works, it's a funeral home that works in conjunction with, an already established, or to be established.
Are these new statutes that have come out, because you came here a year and a half ago, and I'm wondering why we didn't come.
You know, there was a
About
lot
this
of,
use.
there was a lot of confusion on ways on how to approach. We were working with Steve Bontafonte, and him and the Berlin lawyer, she thought he was gonna do the text amendment, he didn't know how, and he thought she was gonna. That held up a lot, we got very busy. There was a time before we were actually coming in, this is kind of many years ago. Looking to start a trade service and also look to sell services. This time, we're not, we're going through, the industry has evolved, we're not looking for that. Not even to do embalmings or trade for
We have a
anybody
funeral home
else.
right down the street that takes care of all of
This
that.
is a completely different approach. And I think we're trying to get it done right, and I do have a lot more information that's new from Steve, the inspector,
I guess.
Benkowski.
Okay, the other question I have is, because I know there are some other, I think it's important for the commissioners to hear if there are some other funeral directors that
Yeah.
are here this evening.
Yeah,
And I think it would be important.
Just really quick though,
Yes.
just to interrupt you,
Yes,
these
sir.
are all our competitors, correct,
no, they're
on
not.
the same street.
Well, that's okay, that's
That's
okay.
okay.
This-
I wanna-
This meeting is open to the public and everyone is allowed to speak, so,
That makes sense.
to share your point, which is, understandable, we didn't know that, I don't know how this business works, so the folks that are here this evening that are from town that represent possibly.
I
other
would love
funerals
to
are
hear what they say.
They're direct competitors with you, gentlemen.
I don't recognize all of them as direct competitors.
Yeah, okay, but the
It doesn't
fact
matter.
that I think it's important because there's some legal issues here, we don't know how this business works. And maybe these folks are have nothing to say, but
I
maybe they
actually-
do, and we wanna give them an
I
opportunity.
actually want to be able to answer their questions and make sure that they're comfortable.
If they have.
Yeah, we could set this up where if they respond and you guys have questions too, but if we're given an ability to, an opportunity to address some of the things that
Well,
that
let me say this, you gentlemen are done with your presentation?
I just have
Okay.
one question. Sure. Do the families come to your crematory to?
So it's rare, but there's certain families that wanna come to witness the commencement of the cremation. It is very rare, we have a viewing window, we only allow up to immediate family, a few family members. And it gives them that time to just be with their loved one, and actually they like to push the button to shut the door to start the cremation.
It's a part of the Hindu and Buddhist culture,
But
and all
you see other, it's not just Hindu, we're seeing quite a bit more.
Councilor Chairman, I guess I got a question.
Yes, sir. Excuse me, gentlemen, Mr. Alexander, one more question. Heard, guys.
Where else is this done throughout our state?
East Hartford Trade. Are you talking about the combos? The combo, East Hartford Trade is a funeral home crematory combo. Harmon Funeral Home has multiple funeral homes / funeral home crematory where they all have the ends. There's another Brookside Crematory Funeral Home out in
Yeah, that's,
it's about 4 just off the top of my
a
head.
lot of crematories are not-for-profit in cemeteries. They do not want any part of this. They don't have the facility to hold bodies, they are not licensed directors to properly disinfect and pouch the bodies, see, that's another thing. When talking with Rob Binkowski at the state, it's not with the subdivision. You have to be a licensed director to properly disinfect and prepare the body to hold, even if it's for that day until the license are pulled. Whether it be at a funeral home, our funeral home, or at, hopefully with this text amendment, the funeral transport umbrella, we have to have a prep station to properly hold the body.
And where would you normally get a
We're already approved from the state to have a prep room to properly disinfect, and then the body's pouched and then kept in refrigeration. And we actually have a lot more room here than we do at our funeral. With this space, this is the space where we plan on having the prep room. And then once they have the permits, the body comes right over here and not cross this line. That's what the state told me. Once we have the permits, we cross this line, and here's our 2 retorts. Right.
Any other questions for this gentleman?
Okay. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay, I don't know if these folks here would like to say anything, but you know, we're on this topic now, so here's your chance if you want to talk.
Sure. My name is Peter Hansen. I'm a resident of Berlin and homeowner of the Eric's Hansen Funeral Home of Berlin, which supports funeral service. We have other funeral directors that represent funeral homes in Berlin Memorial, and Bill Farrell from Farrell Funeral Home in Britain, also a resident of Berlin as well. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I and a number of other funeral homes are opposed to allowing Brookside Crematory to become a licensed funeral home, even if the concept of a limited use funeral home were possible. The reason we're opposed is this would provide an unfair advantage for Brookside over already existing funeral homes in our area. It would create an up-level playing field, and it would have the potential to jeopardize the existing business of the town that contribute to our tax basis. As it was explained before, licensing Brookside Crematory as a limited use funeral home would allow Brookside to transport directly to their crematory facility from the place of death, which any standalone funeral home is not allowed to do. All funeral homes in our state are required to obtain permission for the cremation before the body goes to the crematory. That usually involves completing a death certificate with a doctor, getting permission from a medical examiner, getting signatures from a family authorizing the cremation, and then getting a permit, usually from the town where the death has occurred. What is the time frame with that? You can't cremate inside of 48 hours, but sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it takes a week to get those permissions for cremation, because maybe a family's not available to sign, or maybe the doctor doesn't sign that death certificate right away. Only after a permit for cremation is obtained can the remains then be transported to the crematory. The licensing of a crematory as a funeral home would allow Brookside to operate differently than every other funeral home and provide an unfair advantage. The state of Connecticut does not have any provision for a limited use funeral home. I talked to Robert Binkowski today. I also served on the State Board of Examiners and Fathers and Funeral Directors for 6 years. I'm very much aware of what the licensing allows and does not allow. there are no provisions whatsoever in the state of Connecticut for them to enforce limited use funeral home license. There's good reason behind why limited use funeral home licenses are not given out by the state of Connecticut. A family might call limited use funeral home not knowing that the funeral home could not perform embalmings, viewings, funeral services. They'd be left not being able to provide the services to that family wanted. If we had different funeral homes that some could only do part of the services and some would only transport, it would be devastating to families at the time of release. We also believe that the industrial building where Brookside is located is not adequate for a funeral home facility, which it would have to be licensed as in the state of Connecticut. It's not adequate for gatherings, calling out as funeral services, public gatherings, and other services normally provided by a funeral home. The facility does not have sufficient parking. If services were held in that facility, many of those attending would be forced to park on the street. That would create a very dangerous situation. People coming and going to their cars on Christian Lane while other cars were passing by. Licensing Brookside as a funeral home in an area not zoned for a funeral home would also provide an unfair advantage. I believe when they became a crematory, they had to receive a special exception to become a crematory. Now I believe they need a special exception to a special exception to become a funeral home in that same facility. The cost of land and the building in an already established funeral home such as Berlin Memorial, Erickson Hanson, Berlin, and Porter's properly zoned areas is substantially higher than a facility in an old manufacturing facility in a zone not permitting funeral home use, such as on Christian Lane. Starting with a lower overhead and investment costs because of their zoning area, added to a lower operating cost mentioned above, would be unfair to already established funeral homes that have followed zoning regulations, have spent a lot of money in establishing their businesses and buildings in proper areas of the town. Brookside Crematory has come before the Economic Development Commission and Berlin Planning and Zoning in the past to request support and permission to be able to be licensed as a funeral home in this location. The owners clearly are not satisfied to operate as other crematories in the state of Connecticut. They're asking to be designated as a limited use crematory, limited use funeral home at their crematory, even though such a designation does not exist. And it only help to circumvent the public health department rules and regulations. It was mentioned before that you have to go to a permit in Berlin, to the town hall in Berlin, to get a permit for cremation. That's not necessarily true. If a person dies out of the town of Berlin, you go to that town for that permit is obtained. So I'm wondering what's the policing for a limited use funeral home with the text amendment? Who's going to enforce that? Is the town going to have a certain inspector that can oversee a funeral home that's a limited use, because the state of Connecticut doesn't have any provisions as such for that. So it's very awkward. It's very unfair to existing funeral homes. I think the last point is that those dual facility funeral homes that have a crematory or operate a crematory and a funeral home together, those were funeral homes first, and they later took on a crematory facility. They didn't start as a crematory and then become a funeral home. They started as a funeral home and then took on a crematory facility. That's predominantly how it works, has worked in the state of Connecticut in the past. Again, there is no provision in the state of Connecticut for a limited use permit. The town would have to have an enforcement of that if that was the case. It's not going to be enforced by the state. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. And there may be others that wish to speak as well. Thank you.
Anyone else from that corner have any comments?
My name is Bill Farrell. As Mr. Hanson said, I'm a funeral director in New Britain. We're about the same vintage. I just want to say that he presented his case very well. I agree with everything he said, and I've never heard of a limited funeral home. I don't know what that is. Been at it for over 45 years, and I've never heard of that. I only think it would open the door to creating another funeral home within the facility. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions for these folks here?
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
No, I agree with that.
Okay,
It said it all. Thank you.
questions? These folks over here regarding the matter before us. Okay, there are no questions. I guess, the comments I would make is, for our commissions, some of this seems legal, which might be beyond our scope. Not sure. This battle is gonna happen in county and zoning, not one. So, my opinion, regarding this matter is, I don't, we've heard one side and the other. Not having a whole lot of experience in this type of business, I'm not sure. I know that I can because. Sure. Right, wrong, I think this is a.
I think that could go on for a long time, so maybe we can table it to later.
Statement, it seems that both parties have spoken to the same person in the state.
Right, yes.
Can we reach out to that person and get your opinion? How this actually plays out in the states?
Well, we certainly can. I'm not sure when the P and Z, when this is scheduled for P and Z.
February 2nd.
So we're not gonna probably meet again before February 2nd, so we're gonna be at P and Z. I know that I can't take a position because I don't know enough about the whole thing. You guys have talked to some of the same, these folks have talked, and they said something about they've spoken to the same person in the state. So I will love to, but I'm more than willing to rest commissioners, you guys have some ideas on this. Well,
Let's just boil down to other aspects of different projects as far as like the number of parking spaces and so forth. Is it adequate for that? Is the situation, the site plan adequate for the number of parking spaces that could happen? And people do come. It is a limited use funeral home, so maybe there will be people that come to this. We're not quite sure.
They won't be able to come because we cannot sell services there. If you would look at our site plan, our map, once that big room becomes where bodies are held, there's no room, there's no place. Who wants to go to transport funeral services in an industrial zone to have a funeral? There's a perfectly good funeral home called Burling Memorial, who are wonderful there. Like I said, nothing changes because these are families that are already contracted with our funeral home, Buddy Funeral, not Brookside, not transport, Bloody Cremation Care or Bloody Funeral Home to go direct, to be cremated. They're coming to that building no matter what. So traffic doesn't change, the parking doesn't change, our facility's not changing. The only small change is when, and that's, so it'll be under the scope by law, by the state, Kowski. I have spoken to him as well. It's allowed to be held once that is licensed there. This is what the families are asking for that wants, and it's not going to bring in more business for us because these are people who are calling Luddy Cremation Care, not Luddy Transport. They're not saying, oh, they can do something less, or we're going to get more business because it's going to cut our labor in half. And yes, but we're also offering that to anybody who feels that they would need to. And our arms are always wide open to help you at any time. So nothing will change.
Thank you, sir.
So are you saying that another funeral parlor could send a body directly to you?
So what could happen is if they were to have a direct cremation and they signed my Brookside crematory form, so that means their loved one wants to be cremated with us. And they pass away, instead of picking them up at a hospital, nursing home, or house call, or the medical examiner's office, bringing them back, unloading them, at their funeral. And then just probably the next day or two, depending, have to blow it back up and drive it to us. Yes, they may come. A licensed director of my staff and them will be there. Two, because we have to be a licensed director, to properly disinfect pouch and bag, and make sure, now that body is under our umbrella. It's being held under the protection of a licensed funeral home and cannot cross over. It's not going, because he kept saying you can't bring body to Brookside. That's one thing he was saying. There's many things that he was saying that I completely not screwed. It's not going to the crematory. And a lot of these places do have certain limited, there's a place on the Berlin Turnpike. It's a storefront. They have their own funeral home license. They're selling affordable cremations.
They don't have.
The difference between them and us, they can't do funerals there because it's in a strip mall. It's not the Munson's where the Munson's chocolate, Newington, I believe it's a strip mall. You can't bring the bodies there. They're not allowed to. The town just didn't really say, maybe they didn't put a, whatever it was, but they said, no. They didn't put it there because there's no way you're bringing your body there. They're bringing it to their other facility under the scope of the umbrella, probably right to the crematory because it's owned by a corporate facility that owns it.
Thank you very much. We could go on for a while. That's okay. Quite often, businesses will come to us. You've seen it, what the economic development issue. And most of the times when we do this, it's vanilla and we understand what each business is coming. And commissioners speak up anytime you want. I'm reluctant to recommend that this commission takes an action this evening, one way or another. Because I'm not sure that this is an argument, it's a zoning, it's a P and Z. Quite often when it gets into the P and Z scope or frame, and it's a little tricky, we try to sort of stay back if we can. So my recommendation is, it's a little tricky for us to go one way or another on this. So I'm reluctant, but if you folks want to have a motion and vote on it, we can, but I'm just a little, I just don't know enough personally about it to say it's good, it's bad. And I don't even know what zoning is gonna say. Truthfully, quite often when we make decisions here, we know what zoning is gonna do for the most part on vanilla stuff. This one's a little bit that I think we should put on.
We have time later, we can discuss it, but right now,
Yeah.
it's just be going down a rabbit hole.
Right.
I mean, if we feel that we'd like to take action on it, we can schedule a special meeting.
Okay.
I mean, we do have 3 weeks, 3 weeks until the public hearing. on the P&Z. And yes, no action is something that this commission.
There seems to be so much contradiction. State, will say the arbitrator.
I think, you know what, that,
Third party.
and I would say save your arguments for P and Z. You're gonna, you know, that's where this will all get shaken out at P and Z, because it's not us that's gonna just bless this, you, or whatever you want it to. So from what I'm hearing is the commissioners are speaking, I just hold on.
The only comment, I'm taking into consideration both sides here. I mean, we're talking competition here. Okay, and again, this limited use. All right, so. The planning has only made an exception to allow. Regulatory in this zone in the first place. Okay, and now they're coming back with some other type to eliminate the process or something. And I can ask myself, what's next? Right? Just
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Anything else from our commissioners? Anything else?
Well, they should some way that they can. It's a small site. Is there somebody within the state that's gonna have, sorry, what's wrong, is like that. That's so that it goes back to Corporation Council, that's where everything.
That's the whole thing. So P and Z is gonna have that time frame of what, the 60 days. And then Corporation Council could review it and so forth. So I'm gonna agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, everyone for coming down this evening and discussing this, and good luck at February 2nd, Kinsey. Thank you. All right, Chris, what's next on the agenda?
Be 30 seconds. Jill, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Hello.
So if you could just introduce yourself quickly and what you're looking to do, I'll try to fill in the blanks anywhere where.
Okay, so my name is Jill Perez and I own Connecticut Specialty Events Company. So we're an event company in the state of Connecticut that puts on numerous events. This event that we're looking to do in the town of Berlin is called the Made in Connecticut Expo. So it would be the 8th year for this event in the state. We're only changing locations due to the Naugatuck Event Center being sold. So we're looking for a new location. It features all small businesses throughout the state. We usually have around 200 vendors. And then we also have some food trucks on site. I've already met with the fairgrounds and you guys were kind of the next step in approval to see if the event would be possible.
Tell us about it. What do the vendors do? Are they selling products? Are they just marketing themselves? Are they paying to rent the table? How does it work?
Yep. So the vendors are paying me to rent the space and I'm the one advertising and putting it on, doing the insurance, the promoting, everything like that. They may be vendors that are selling things like you might have bakers, or it may be vendors that are looking to promote a small business in Connecticut, like someone maybe promoting their own pest control company or something like that. But most of the time, these are vendors that are coming selling an item. So we have Connecticut made authors, we have tea companies, hot sauce companies, all sorts of things. And you can see on the website, www.madeInConnecticutExpo.com, you could see some of the past vendors and the types of items they sell.
Got you. And what was the response? I know the Lions Club sometimes are reticent to doing that. How did you kind of give us an idea with that?
An idea of what? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Your discussion with the Lions Club.
Oh, so everything was fine with them. I've toured it. We've looked at all the spaces. We settled on that. It was just that they said I would have to get approval through you guys because sometimes that's been an issue in the past before we can move forward.
Gotcha. Well, we're step before the step. We're
Okay.
Economic development, but we make recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Commission, but I thought it was important because we are dealing with a lot of small businesses that you could at least speak to our commission first. Again, we don't make the rules, but we are very, very helpful in the P and Z process at this point. But I thought it was important to kind of talk about it because I think our discussion, I think it's going to be a great.
Jill, do
you know about how many people normally attend?
So it really depends. The last couple of years since we've had it indoors, we've kind of been foolproof with the weather, thank God. So, typically we're going to see 5,000 to 8,000. It really, again, depends on the weekend, the weather, the heat.
Are you gonna be using the buildings or outside?
We're going to be using 3 of the buildings and then the outside space that's but kind of leading up to each one, not the whole, a very small part of the facility.
What weekend do you have an idea for the
We're looking at August. I want to make sure I don't know if it's the 12th and the 13th or the 13th and the 14th. Let me get you the exact date. Sorry. All right, let's see. The 12th and the 13th were the dates.
And Jill, you're willing to do something with the commission to help promote the businesses locally? I don't know if that's something you can do.
Yeah, of course we can. And another thing we do is if there's any like nonprofits in town, we always offer the nonprofits spaces for free. They could come in and help just kind of promote local and support local is what we're big on. I mean, all these businesses are small businesses we're trying to support. So
How much is to spread a table or what is it?
Well, so in past years, it's been anywhere between $200 and $250 for the weekend. I don't know. It would depend on, I can't say that would be the exact price this year. It depends on what my final price ends up being with the fairgrounds as well as insurance and all that stuff. So
Now, what is it? You bring your own table?
I provide just the open space to the vendors. They bring all of their own equipment.
Their booth, their table, whatever.
Yes. And I provide the spaces like marked out and everything and the promotion and all that.
And you get in the night before set up?
We get in the night before to set up, yep, and mark the spaces. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
That's inside the buildings, you said?
Yes, inside the buildings and then outside. If we're using outside space, we mark those too with chalk, like it washes off in the rain. Spray chalk.
I think I'd love to do, and this isn't a competition right now, but talk offline about, even us doing an install. We've all recently launched a branding and awareness campaign to promote our businesses, so I would love to be able to be in discussion. That would be.
Okay. Very good.
Pretty. Sounds like it's, I was gonna say, you take care of security, police, parking, all that stuff yourself?
Yeah, so we take care of all of that. We have overnight security. We typically don't need police at all for this event. This is a family-friendly event. It's not going to have any traffic implications or anything like that. We've already talked to the fairgrounds because they're already going to have all of their parking all set up for the fair ahead of time. So we're going to use that traffic flow pattern, only the one entrance. So yeah, so that shouldn't be an issue. And then we contact health, and all of our vendors have to get health permits, and we also contact fire in case they need to come out and inspect any of the trucks.
Yeah, and we're thinking more police with traffic, not having a problem with the event, just because at the Berlin Fair, if you don't have police, you're gonna have collisions out on the street. But no, I think this sounds tremendous. I know we've been thinking to find ways to get more.
Any other questions from the commissioners? So Jill is here looking for work tonight, Chris.
Yes, she will.
Okay. Is there a reason why we wouldn't support this?
I like the fact that they put up the reason for that. No, they've been through running. So.
Oh, what the heck? That's Hey, come on.
Make that motion. Meeting Connecticut event, the Berlin Fair. Mr. Wagner?
Second, Mr. Copeland. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, same motion passes.
Awesome. So Jill, we have a 5 votes in support and none in opposition. So when you
Thank you very much.
planning and zoning, I will be there with you, probably letter of support and to speak on behalf of it when that happens.
Okay.
I can probably connect with you or so on whom to speak with at the planning and zoning office.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
No, thank you. Have a good night.
Good luck.
Have a good day.
Okay. Chris, what we got next?
Sure. Gentlemen, last time we had spoken with you, this is the garage just south of Dunkin' Donuts on the Berlin Turnpike.
Oh.
You had mentioned a couple options to us and we had asked you to come back, kind of give us your thoughts on how you would like to proceed and then get our feedback from there. So I will kind of give you the floor at this point. And if you just want to kind of reintroduce who you are, that would be tremendous.
Okay. Good evening. My name is William Jackson of Jackson Environmental here in town. I'm here with Mr. Darius Hayek, Mr. Ralph Hayek of CRL Hayek LLC. And they own these parcels on the Berlin Turnpike that includes the former service station there. Site plan that I'll pass out. And they are in consultation with Chris. They are thinking that They'd like to propose a zone change from the current BT2 zone, the SPDE2 overlay, to a BT-1 zone. And they are seeking your review, your advice, and potential support to proceed with that. That zone change would affect properties from the existing Dunkin' Donuts located immediately south of Route 9 to the town road area.
On the southbound side, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the map here so you guys can take a look at what we're kind of looking at.
Right. Yeah.
Have you been in contact with the owners of that plaza?
I have not. The Dunkin' Donuts.
No, I was going to have a discussion with them. I wanted them to come and talk to you guys first and kind of get your thoughts on it. My next step was going to be to reach out to them because I know that that plaza, as you know, was put up and has been vacant for quite a while, at least a good portion of it. So let me just pull the zoning down here.
Gary doesn't own that.
What's that?
Dunkin' doesn't own that property.
No, Carrie.
Oh, he does.
Yes, he does. Yes.
So it goes from that plaza?
Yep, no, I'll show you. So it's basically the entire area here in red. And what it does actually is the parcels up here are all landlocked by the ramp. This parcel here, the tan parcel, is owned by the land trust. And then as you go south, you have the Dunkin' right here. You have the, let's see, that's the bottom half of the parcel that Mr. Powers owns. And then you have again CRL Hayek. And then the piece up front here with the automotive. Then you have a triangle piece here. And then you essentially have the back half of 4 properties. So essentially what it would do is it would rezone the properties here that are commercial at present. Most of these here, again, they have no frontage on the turnpike. But in order to make this.
Are they rentals? I mean, rental residentials?
Yes, these are all residential. Let me take the zoning off and you can kind of see it backs up right to Worthington Ridge. So essentially all of these.
So the people who own Worthington Ridge own those properties?
They do. Some of them own them. Mr. Powers, again, owns all the way from Worthington Ridge down to the turnpike. And then I think that's the only one that goes all the way down. Yes, that's the only one that goes down. The rest of them are either owned by these gentlemen. I'm sorry, the CR Hayek, I'm gonna mess it up, but Hayek LLC, and then you have the Dunkin' Donuts parcel. So really you're looking at essentially 3 owners, the Dunkin' owner, these gentlemen, and then the owner of this piece here.
How much is that 1.2?
1.29 acres, but again, with the setbacks and the like, it's probably minimally buildable at this point. The BT2 zone has been very challenging. Thus the reason when we were looking at adding the text amendment to the self-storage. Because the BT2 zone is very limited. It's basically retail, office, and restaurants. The BT1 would allow a number of other uses here, including a fueling station, as well as really adding more uses as well to what is possible for not just this property owner, but also for the Dunkin' owner. If you give me 1 second, I'm going to pull up a sheet here that will show you.
How much of this property is wet? Considered in a flood zone or floodplain or?
I think there's a line that's there.
Map shows
This is all,
That is the wetland boundary.
so this is usable.
Correct.
Alright, so you have at least the frontage to the turnpike.
Those houses with the that are on Middletown Road, that's not included in this change, is that correct?
Give me a second here. Houses in Middletown Road. Oops. Yeah, the ones that are on Middletown Road, essentially, they're zoned residential with houses on them at the moment. So that would not change.
Okay.
Their zoning, again, Could someone do something with the back halves of these parcels? Potentially, yes. But someone would have to subdivide their lot, cut off half the lot, and then even if you did that, this one is 3 acres, so maybe somebody would get an acre. With the wetlands here too, it may be that they're not available.
But it's cleaner not having them involved.
It is, and
Yeah.
when we had the discussion, it made a lot more sense to look at the entire corridor. Because between the BT2 and the SPDD2 overlay, nothing has really happened. I mean, you know, that the Kerry built a building there, my guess is for a bank, and it sat there and done nothing. I would love to be able to offer both these gentlemen and Kerry, again, Kerry Gagnon owns the Duncan franchisee and the building and the property. I know adding uses into the BT2 has been a challenge. For instance, they had to get the veterinarian added to add him. So it is a very large challenge on these, and in my mind, we would, personally, I would love to see a development here and giving the BT1 zoning option. Sorry, I was gonna look that up and then I got.
So Chris, what is the town process of letting people know about the possible zone change? Is it a letter? Is it put in the newspaper, or is it both?
With an actual, there would be a public notice probably on the website, and then all the abutters would get the notice. So about I believe 500 feet from any property looking to be rezoned, I believe would get a letter to let them know. So either the folks that currently have properties,
So they will be well notified as far as this.
yeah, there is a large notification process. So
So
let
we
me,
wanna go. Can't see that.
sorry, so basically, so what I've done here is I highlighted a couple things that would essentially be added. I'll go through what they are so you don't have to read it. Medical clinics and labs, indoor and outdoor commercial recreation, manufacturing showroom and distribution center, lumber yard, automotive dealer, nursery garden center, printing, publishing, manufacturing, wholesale distribution, private transportation, civic and fraternal, child daycare centers, motor vehicle repair, sales and service of both vehicles and equipment, and car washes.
So should this go through, do you have plans or ideas on what you do wanna put in there?
Trying to have like more option to really.
You don't have anything like, I
We
wanna
definitely
put
gonna put something there, we're gonna invest to make money, I mean.
We're gonna clean it up, so it's much better than what it's like, yeah, but whatever we put there.
But you don't have anything planned, like I'm gonna put a
Not on my head, right?
gas station.
Waiting to see if it goes the right way, and then gonna decide what we're really gonna do.
And this would affect both sides of the highway, Chris?
No, would only affect
Just those
the
parcels.
parcels from
The one for
from Middletown, basically from Middletown Road up to the on-ramp, off-ramp of Route 9. Again, if you're looking at, from a zoning perspective, some of these are zoned, have some of the zone, the problem is you cannot get to them because of the on-ramp, off-ramp. The first parcel you can get to, again, that is about 7 acres owned by the land trust, that's never gonna get developed. Then Duncan, and 1, 2, 3 properties, which are these gentlemen, the little triangle piece, and then the back half of Mr. Powers' property.
Who owns the triangle piece? I thought trust, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Bristol. 2020. So
It looks like it was just transferred. To an inheritance or something.
yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, it's like a death or inheritance. Yep.
Yeah.
She probably owned it, they're gonna like little slice.
Negotiations.
Especially their motives, if they're gonna buy a little slice, that's pretty much what I know.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is with the setbacks, it would be very, very challenging to do anything with that.
They have to assemble other parcels.
But I mean, you can always use quick parking and exit off of,
I mean, essentially, the best option actually to buy that parcel is these guys.
No, absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was gonna
Use
say
it
that.
as like
Yeah.
an exit off of something that they put on the other property.
Yeah, yeah, because otherwise you'd have to cut off the back half of these properties, which doesn't make a lot of sense, I mean, especially to, if I own this house right here, there's no way I'm gonna sell you the back half of my property because I've already got 100 years of growth of trees between me and the turnpike.
Oh, maxpress.net.
It's already on a cross.
Yeah, it's
Design.
berlingis.com, and this is, I guess that this is the server that we were on, but essentially, here you go, so we're really talking about these three parcels right in here.
And there's enough property on there without being wet that they could build something.
I think, yes, I think the previous wetlands decision had given them quite a bit of land compared to where I think we thought it was.
And what's the setback on the turn, well, Duncan's what, 50 feet?
See, bulk table. Yeah, minimum front yard is 50 feet. Yeah, so 50 in the front, 50 in the back by residential, so. So yeah, there's plenty of pieces in here in place to protect anybody in the back, so. If a development did happen.
Right.
Figure, you're probably about 60 feet down.
Yeah. Even more.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a no-brainer.
If they're planning on doing something. You know, that's what we want, right?
We definitely do, I mean, when,
And the other thing is, the neighbors will have to take it to court, you know, the neighbors all get notified, so if someone's upset about this, they can all come and talk. Right, so it's not like.
It's true, but the best part is that the wetlands are the major buffer between any house,
absolutely,
so. The BT zoo two zone never made sense, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I don't know why it was created. The BT one was first there. And then a few years later. It just.
Probably something that you would, hotel or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure that that is some real reason. I mean, I always thought.
same day that the POD. Same day that the POD.
Certain establishments.
So is there any reason why we wouldn't support or endorse this, commissioners? Yes. These gentlemen would like an endorsement tonight or.
Yes, sir.
So I guess, there's no reason not to, then I guess I would look at the motion to support and endorse this, no change, I guess. Mr. Zinsky, state the motion. Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
do I have to word it?
No, I'll figure the wording, I mean, a zone change to BT one of the properties from Middletown Road to Route 9. As well as get the deletion of the SBDD 2 overlay.
We should put something in there just to make sure that
Hold on.
you know that the neighbors and everybody are going to be notified, have an opportunity to. Come back and play this.
Should we require them to talk to Harry? That has the only development on that parcel, or do we want to move forward with this?
I'm going to be reaching out to them, I can connect them. That is not a problem, I would require it. It's required. I mean, they're gonna get the notification because their
Well, they're
property
gonna
is,
be notified.
I mean, their property is one that is going to be rezoned, they're requested, so they will definitely get the notice, but no, my plan is to try to get them in touch, I think it makes sense to have a discussion. Because Kerry would also like to know what is going to be next door and hopefully be supportive, because you figure that, I mean, if this does happen, it opens up opportunities for him on his existing buildings, the vacancies.
And if the other owner would be interested too. As the script that.
Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Powers. Yeah, I think Mr. Powers would definitely be interested in hearing about it, but yes.
I think that's a good thing.
No, I think it'd be a very good thing.
And that little sliver too, that lady.
Okay, so.
We get a motion, and Ed, you said you had a couple thoughts, or?
No, we just addressed them.
Oh, perfect, okay.
Sophisticated motion, second somewhere.
Second.
Mr. Box, second, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're going to love those. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, we will be in touch.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Okay, let's see.
All right.
We'll see you next time was planned.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jim, you're all set, if you'd like to unmute yourself. So in
Got it.
I had given you all some information, which was the overview from Plan of Conservation Development Nations, so I had Jim come on with any particular questions, and I don't know if you want to kind of talk about process, Jim, on kind of where we are in the mix. Excuse me.
Sure. So the, this planning process has been going on a while. I think I have had some conversations with Ed. Just background, the last two times we updated the Plan of Conservation and Development, they used a committee that included representatives from various commissions. Under statute, the Planning and Zoning Commission is really the one, that's charged with this update of the Plan of Conservation and Development. This time with the update, Planning and Zoning Commission had a lot of members that were interested in being very involved, so they chose to handle it themselves rather than to have a hybrid committee. So that's what they've done. There's been a number of steps. Obviously, the affordable housing plan was developed and approved. There was survey outreach, to residents as part of the affordable housing plan, and then as part of the Plan of Conservation and Development. There were thematic meetings and other meetings in June, and the committee's been meeting about monthly through the last year plus to get to this point. They've developed a set of goals, strategies, and actions, a draft set, and they'll be working on, the consultants working on a draft plan now that everybody will have a chance to review. So we distributed a couple of different sections of the goals, strategies, and actions, the ones related to economic development and the ones related to housing. You may have interest in some of those. I would say in looking at these, I would think about, again, thinking about the action, the recommendations or the draft at this point. Are these things that you support or don't support or, have concerns about in general? Are there things that you think that should be more specific or reworded to better state what you think that it should? And the hardest thing often in this is really, what do you think is missing? Are there things that you think are important that aren't captured here? I think the last couple of times we've done the Plan of Conservation and Development update, we got to the point where through the process, we really had a specific set of zoning recommendations. And I don't think that's not where we're going to get to this time. I think we're going to have these, this kind of level of recommendations, and then it's going to be to the next step for making things move forward. There is a recommendation on establishing an implementation committee, which would have representatives from key commissions. And, we've had that in the past. I think that's going to be very important. But again, I think if the commission has, the more specific we can be in terms of the recommendations, then the clearer it's going to be moving forward that, both that planning and zoning has kind of recognized these things at this step, and that let's say the Economic Development Commission has a charge to, try to move forward on that in collaboration with P and Z if it's required, or whoever is involved with the action. And a lot of them, again, may involve zoning, but others don't. So it's a combination of things. So that's kind of the general background. And I'd be happy to, walk through some of these recommendations or pick out ones that I think are significant, but I can start by, I guess, if there's ones that members of the commission particularly want to discuss, we can start there.
Yeah, Jim, I just want to point out clarification for myself. So we're gonna address the uses and zones separately, other than this plan of conservation and development recommendation that we have in front of us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the recommendations in front of you might say, something like, for example, expand the eligible, permitted uses in a particular zone, or, include assisted housing and assisted living in certain zones or whatever. And, then it's going to be, there's another step to really get to the point where you specifically nail it down with with a recommendation that you're going to put forward. And I know you've worked, Chris and I have worked on things, but the commission's worked on things in terms of zoning recommendations. We may want to get, in previous instances, we've had consultants that have helped us with some of this, like Glenn Chalder and the last iteration. If P and Z is gonna, carry forward on some of these things, they'll have a consultant. If they're not, then I think we should try to handle the things that are related to economic development and, bring things forward, hopefully in a package to try to, advance the recommendations.
I got a question. A lot of the housing strategies, and I know the background, we had the study and everything, but everything's mentioning, working toward more affordable housing. And I know the 10% limit is now a gray line, I guess the best way to put that. But from what I understand, Berlin is the closest to that 10% line in the whole area. Why are we working so hard to get so much more affordable housing in place when we're already pretty close to what we at one point were required to do? Not sure, that kind of ties things up with certain things, but
yeah, I think, a couple of things. One, the affordable, we had this affordable housing committee that went through this, had public input, that certainly we're trying to meet, make the 10%. We're not there. As I think you probably know that it's based on the most recent census count. So we're 82 units away now. We've got an 88 unit project that's under development, in Deming Ridge, that all those units would be qualified. We could potentially be at the 10%, but the 2020 census numbers are going to come out and we're going to be another 50 units away. And, we have a number of projects that have already been approved. For example, the Housing Authority project, or, a Mr. Diadio's project that will include affordable units, and some others with smaller counts. But none of those projects necessarily are, seem to be imminent at this point. They're not moving forward to development. And, obviously the projects that we've done with Metro are ones that really have advanced. And, we have a lot of confidence in Metro and their work. The others, not to say that they won't happen, but they're not imminent. And even if, they get their financing, it's probably 2 or 3 years out before you finish the project, and the units don't count until you.
Jim,
yeah.
My point is, you look at any other town and we're so far ahead of everyone. that, you know, the concern on our part seems like there's other motivation there, so I'm just, you know, I think the concern is not, you know, to hit that 10% at this point, so it just seems, you know, Berlin's over exaggerating looking for this, you know, affordable housing, because if we're gonna be so close, a town like Farmington is at 70%, and we're at 96%. Are we really concerned? You know, we're concerned about that one development that comes in and wants to put Broadbrook in, yeah, we get that. But we've already addressed most of those issues. And that probably won't be able to happen again, so. I don't know, I find that concerning.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things. One is obviously it's, again, either we're 10% or we're not at 10%. So if you're not at 10%, you can have a 500 unit project that comes in, or 1,000 unit project or whatever, you just don't have any control over it. And so we certainly, I think we all agree we want to make the 10%. But, you know, beyond that, I think that, you know, the analysis that went in, and again, the commission can, these are the things we're talking about. If the commission wants to make different recommendations, you certainly can do that. I think part of the motivation was really, you start to, you know, when they did the analysis of kind of you know, income levels and rents and housing prices and such in town. There's a lot of people that live here that are spending a lot more than 30% of their income on housing. So, you know, there's even for the people who live here already, but also we have a lot of, you know, employers that employ people that are in those income ranges, and whether it's manufacturing or service or retail or whatever. So the idea of having some, you know, housing for everybody is part of the idea too.
Yeah, and I think, Jim, one of the things we were going to be doing legislative gathering last Thursday night, but because again, sadly, representative from Middletown passed, so we didn't end up doing the meeting. But one of the things that we've been talking about is if our representatives could do something in Hartford, I'll call it protection, I guess, which is if somebody comes in and we're 80 units short, they can come in with 80 units. They can't come in with 1,000 units. The way it's written right now, I believe if you're not at the 10%, you're somewhat wide open. So
only in the state, right?
Yeah, so again, that's one of the things we like to do, because again, we've gotten what did someone get us? Not a moratorium. What's the word?
Yeah, we've gotten 2 moratoriums, you know, which are 4 years each, and as indicated, we're at like 9.02% now. And so, you know, actually, you know, that's the other thing that we fell back from 2020 to 2021, because some of the units that count here are CHFA mortgages, and there were less CHFA mortgages in 21 than 22. So there's things that we don't control. You know, like we don't want to hit 10%, 10.01%, because the next year we could fall back. So, you know, you want to go beyond to a certain degree, even from that perspective. But yeah, like Chris said, I mean, we've talked to our legislators over a number of years and tried to, you know, get them to do things to recognize the progress that we made. And I think we're not like the closest to 10%, but there's 4 or 5 towns that are in the, you know, 8 to 9% range. And, you know, we think that, you know, people that have made a lot of progress should be treated differently than people that haven't made any, but that's not the way it works right now. And it's a very difficult, you know, it's a difficult statute to amend in the current environment.
Yeah, we would love to be able to find a way for us to be looked at differently than communities that have made new progress. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at the progress, I mean, it has been dramatic. Again, it'd be great to be at 10.1, but you're right. If you're looking at communities at 3%, you should not be treated the same as when there's at 9.1%. But it's interesting because of those contributors.
And the other thing too is based on what you're saying, Chris, is if communities that were at 7, 8, 9, if you had a sliding scale for some reason, it might motivate companies to get to a certain level so they couldn't jam 1,000 units. You know what I mean? Like Once you get to 7, you can have 200 units. When you get to 8, you know, the max they can cram into your community is 100, and you get to 9, you know, they can only ask you for what it takes to get to 10. It was a sliding scale to motivate people to get up to 4 or 5, to try to get there so they don't get the 1,000 or whatever.
So the 10% kind of gives this little protection.
No,
Yeah,
From,
because that used to be a goal. They now said it's no longer a goal. They can move it to 12 if they want to, the day you hit 10. I was on the affordable housing. Mr. Bajor and Mr. Tripp of Metro. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. It's Chris Capola.
Yes, Chris, how you doing?
Good buddy. They made it clear that there's all sorts of funding and incentives for low income affordable housing. But the 3-ring binder talked about veterans, keeping elderly people in the towns, things of that nature. Both Mr. Georgia Housing Authority and Mr. Tripp for Metro who builds affordable housing. There are no incentives for the elderly. We need to get people at the state level, put their money where their mouth is, but put it in that 3-ring binder and say that that's a community which we collectively recognize that is a huge need in this town. To keep our elderly people in familiar surroundings, so they know the town, they drive the town, we're not gonna send them over to Newington where they don't know it after living here for 40 years. And there's no incentives, and we have to figure out a way to get the state, if they want that affordable housing, that's what we want here. We want to bring that in, but the problem is, how do you partner with a developer that can't get funding for that type of project? That's the rub that I have with all of this.
Yeah, you know, certainly Chris is right. I mean, you can't get funding. It's very difficult to get funding for elderly projects. And, you know, in order, any of these projects that we're talking about that are affordable, they're getting special financing grants and or tax credits, or else they're not doing this project. So, you know, that's one of the issues we identified. And then, you know, another irony is just the affordable housing situation is that when you look from a home ownership perspective, you know, like over 50% of our units are selling, our houses are selling at prices that would qualify for CHFA, but they're not getting financed by CHFA. So even though they're like affordable by price, they don't count. And the other thing just to remember again, in terms of the 10% is that, you know, again, we're at 2023 already. So we're, you know, next time when they do the census in 2030, you know, maybe it won't take them 3 years to generate the numbers. So we got to keep up along the way. So we of the housing that gets developed in the town, even if we make 10%, we gotta have 10% of what is new also. You know, in order to stay there, because I think certainly if we get there, we want to stay there. So, you know, I think you want to overshoot the target some for those reasons.
Jim, it's Chris Capola again. Just a quick question. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't know. When they do the census, do they break it down to show us where the population growth is coming from?
Yes.
I mean, can we see that it's working class families having more children and that's what's causing the population growth? Where is it coming from?
Yeah, you can look at, you know, it's all broken down demographically in the census in terms of age and, you know, family size and income and all that business. I mean, I think in from 2010 to 2020, you know, the biggest increases were in, you know, like, I don't know, certainly 45 and over, 55 and over population. And, you know, our income, the higher income categories were increasing in town. So that's what's happened in the last 10 years.
Town census, not the old state census.
Okay.
Okay.
I got another question, and I didn't read the whole thing, so I will just defer to you. When we did this, I think you were still here.
Yes.
And I know one of the topics we had was about the waterway flooding in town. Now, I know they did address some of that, but we still have some floods. Is that anywhere discussed?
Yeah, there's other sections to this that we, you know, Chris, there's like, you know, public, you know, like public utilities, public facilities section with a set of recommendations.
Hey, Jim, it's Eddie.
Hey, Ed.
I did scratch up a couple of the boxes. If we want to go through it, I can tell you what page and where we are. If you
Sure.
want to do that, okay. Page 5, you know, you and I once talked about the assisted living facilities, different zones and so forth. Particularly the plan shopping DD zone. You know, that there could have the assisted living with different types of stage of housing for the elderly. It did talk about or mention different zones here, the BT1 and PI2 and so forth. My main concern, what you just mentioned here, that we're not going to look at how the regulations were written up. Hopefully, this is going to be done within the next year. Would that be the case?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just from a, you know, my personal observation, what's happened is, you know, planning and zoning has been pretty backed up with a lot of big projects relative to, you know, what's been happening in town recently. So, you know, it's not gonna happen. Like I said, last time we had specific recommendations as part of the plan and then we moved them forward pretty quickly. You know, I don't think that's not what I see happening unless, and so I think the things that we, you know, the commission wants to push that, you know, I think Chris and I can work with you to try to get those, you know, advanced and on the table so that we could get them moving.
Yeah, okay, but you know, our commission alone would like to see things, you know, have those changes to allow things to move forward, you know, within the next year or so, not 4 and 5 years from now. Okay, go to page 7. Study option to include the residential zoning, the PSA zone. I found that to be a high priority. Study again, the PSD zone and overlays and so forth. I think right now the way we're addressing affordable housing and not giving up all our commercial zones, that we now have that system of developing the front piece and allowing the back to be residential. It seems to be a good formula.
Yeah, I think, Ed, if I could comment, I mean, you know, crossing to some of the other recommendations, I think one of the things we've been talking about was with the BTD, there wasn't a requirement for a specific percentage of commercial. So, I mean, I think there should be, and I think, you know, so we got to clean, in my opinion, we got to clean some of that stuff up. And then, like you said, I mean, the mixed use projects have been, you know, one of the major areas of development interest, and also kind of allowing, I think, us to redevelop some of the areas that have been difficult to redevelop, like, you know, and the PSA areas are Ferndale and Webster Square and Mill Street, you know, and so, but they're all very different. So we have to develop, you know, we have to develop the specifics, like you said, and this, at least we get to the point where it's in the plan and we, you know, we're looking at it. That's step one, but then we've got to get it. Then we've got to advance it. We've got to develop the specifics and get it approved.
No, that's true. Actually, I'm looking at how many things that I scratched up, so I'm gonna end up being the only one talking on this subject. And I just don't want to do that. One other item, just that Bob mentioned about the flooding. Going back some 20 years ago when Farmington Avenue flooded, and we found out that there was pipes that went under a road that were blocked by debris and so forth. And as we proceeded to look at how the Sabeth River ran through, and we found out a lot of it goes through private property that were not allowed to go on, that had a lot of debris that was disrupting the flow. So it's probably something we want to look at in the future to make sure that that flood never happens again. And that those main drainage areas, basically going under Farmington Avenue, or actually that's Mill Street at that point. And the pipe that goes underneath Route 9 are always cleared. That created a big problem for us.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a flood management plan now, but yes, you know, that, and I'm sure some of the, you know, that, those kind of recommendations are in there. I think, like you said, I mean, I think one of the things we found, like with the Stop and Shop project, was it's really the undersized pipe under, you know, the Berlin Turnpike that is a roadblock, you know, it's blocking things up. So that would be a major project that would be beneficial to get done.
Yeah, other things that have scratched up here, I just don't want to hold the commission up on everything that I scratched here. So maybe another time we can look at this.
Yeah, we do have a, I could say, you know, backing, you know, taking a step back, we do have a fillable version of the whole, you know, the whole this whole document with all the categories. And Chris could send it out to all the members of the commission. You can fill it in and you know, send it back, and we'll take a, you know, we can take a look at it, and that would help us, you know, decide if, you know, you could make, you know, you could say low priority, or, you know, mark up, you know, tell us, I guess we could create another category and tell us things you don't like, but in this one, and then, you know, we can talk about it next month if you want.
Yeah, most of the stuff I looked at, what this commission could be concerned about. All right, thanks.
Alright,
yeah, I'll get a copy of
This is, I'm sorry, this is Keith Bostrom.
Thank you.
Getting back to the utilities question. As far as the infrastructure for the town of Berlin, the water basically, and possibly the sanitary system, are there any upgrades in the future for take on this additional development that's in this proposal or in this plan of development?
Well, I think I think you know, we've gone through it to some degree. I mean, I think we have capacity at Metabesset at the moment. It's, you know, more our issue with Metabesset is more like with you know, some of the infiltration issues, and you know, we got infill and infiltration, and we've done some projects, and part of the issue that was identified is that, you know, you've got the 3 districts, and you know, they're not all equally engaged in trying to work on, you know, controlling the infiltration into the system that's causing these, you know, excess capacity issues in rainstorms. And the council, in one of the recommendations in the plan, is a study, you know, consolidation or modifications to the working arrangements of the districts. And I know the council approved the study of that topic at their last meeting, so we'll see where that goes. I mean, and I know from a water perspective, you know, we've got, I mean, one of the things that's, you know, kind of multi-sourcing. I mean, we've obviously we've got our own supplies. We're bringing in water from New Britain, but we're connected or potentially connected to Meriden and Middletown and Metabesset and Metropolitan District. So diversifying our water supply. And then one of the other things I know the commission, the P&Z was interested in is, you know, continuing to develop our local supply. And there are sources like, you know, Woodlawn Well, it could be developed and things like that.
Yeah, it's not only the volume of the water, but I'm thinking of the infrastructure itself underground. Like, I know there's an issue up on Ronald Drive, but that whole area needs to be repaved, but we can't repave it because the pipes underneath there are so bad. And there doesn't seem to be enough funding to repair the pipes as far as the water system is concerned. That's what I'm curious about. Is there any type of upgrading that plant. Through the.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember Ronald Drive particularly. Which district is it in?
Worthington.
Worthington. Yeah, I mean, again, that's the issue. I mean, we you know, we have the separate districts, and you know, as far as the you know, the Berlin district, you know, we have the staff in town hall, and they, you know, obviously you got to raise, if you need the capital, you develop the financing, you raise the rates, you do what you got to do to bring up the infrastructure. But the Worthington and Kensington can make their own decisions. And I think you know, that's kind of like part of the issue here is really that from a town perspective, we want, you know, all the districts, the whole town to have, you know, solid infrastructure. And, you know, when like, for example, sending it to Mattabesett, I mean, we're all sending to Mattabesett. We're a town sending to Mattabesett, right? So if one of the districts is not fixing the infiltration problems, it's causing a problem for everybody. So everybody's got, you know, all the districts and, you know, have to work together, and it's, you know, how do we get that to happen? Or, you know, if there are problems within the districts, the other districts, how does that get addressed?
Exactly. All right, thank you.
Obviously, it's been a long-standing, you know, situation. So, but we'll see. The first step is really the study and see what we come up with.
Any other questions for Jim? When, Jim, do we have to have our comments in? When would it be helpful for you folks to have our comments?
Yeah, I would say, you know, if you can wrap it up at your next meeting, that would be helpful. I mean, I'd say when, you know, with the draft plan, you know, I've started to see I've seen sections of the draft plan from the consultant. I'm starting to just go through it, you know, first shot now, and they'll work on the rest of the draft plan. So I don't think we're going to have anything until later in February. But, you know, if we can get things at your February meeting, then we can try to build them into the draft plan. But you're going to have another, you know, you have another bite at the apple once you have the draft plan that you can look at, and you can say, okay, this is a draft plan, I don't like it, you know, and give comments at that point. But it's better to get it in sooner, you know, so we can get as many things into the first draft as we can.
Anything else for Jim?
Thanks for your time, Jimmy.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, just to say, obviously, our plan expires September of 2023, so we got to approve the new plan before that. And so after we develop this draft plan, it's got to go to regional planning agencies. We got to do public hearings and everything. So even though we're 6 months out, you know, we got to get this draft done in the next few months. And so it's critical time now.
Right, I will get an email out to everybody with the full document and let you know.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
Alrighty, a couple things just quickly here. So we finished the year very strong. We ended up doing 35 ribbon cuttings last year and 25 milestone awards for a total of 60 different events over 52 weeks. When I added those numbers up, I realized I'm tired. No, but that was very cool to have all that stuff going on. So a couple things we did, Airton bought manufacturing, was a distribution building on Fuller Way. If you have not gone down Fuller Way, check it out. Jeff Leone is a Berlin guy, did an amazing job on the building. He did a huge like wraparound blue, so it looks really nice. He brought his company, 100 employees and about 100 vehicles to Berlin, which is very cool. Choice Inc., located next to Central Pizza. Central Pizza next to it is getting completely filled, which is pretty amazing. For years and years, not a lot was happening.
The son of
George
taking over.
Yeah, George's been doing great things. Babies to Buddies, which is a daycare, went on Chamberlain Highway where the YMCA used to be. Ravishing Decor, they actually, it's kind of funny. So Ravishing Decor did 2 ribbon cuttings in, I think it was 11 months. They did their opening and then the expansion. They went into the old market space. I can't remember the name of the market right now, but next to Central Pizza. Hundred Farms. No, I figure it's probably been a decade since anything's been in there.
Yeah.
I walked in and Dorothy looked at me and she's like, got nothing? I said, no. I said, I'm speechless. That doesn't actually happen. Because it just looks so amazing and it's perfect for her. It has all the windows. It's just a huge display, so she's thrilled. Dollar Tree / Family Dollar is gonna be doing soft opening on the 16th, ribbon cutting on the 1st. On the 4th, they're gonna have a big thing in the parking lot with tents. We're trying to work with them to hopefully get food from Bella's and Zach's and potentially a ice cream truck that may not be doing ice cream, may be doing hot chocolate. But we have a truck in town.
Is 100% better.
It's getting there. We're talking, we're talking about the Chamberlain Highway side. The good news is they're gonna have like 9 aisles of groceries, a freezer and a cooler case. So it's not just a dollar store, which will be good. Couple ones upcoming. Dragonfly doubled their size. Sliceworks took over the old Vito's. Dips and Sauces is moving up next to Central Pizza.
Where are they moving?
Next to Central Pizza, I believe they're moving into one of the smaller spots.
Dorothy's or somewhere in there?
Yeah, one of the other ones in there. It's in that one.
They should have put them next to
Mhm, that's right. Alden Tool celebrated 75 years, Cambridge 70 years, Powerhouse 40 years, Central Pizza 55 years. Which is very cool, so it's time to get started on the 23s.
Okay.
Thank you. No, it was great. One of the best parts of it was I got to thank the employees of the companies, because when we look at our success. It was all these employees eating local, spending money locally, and so I was really happy to do that because. I think many of them. They're forgotten, but they kept working through COVID, and without them. We don't see the success we've had, so.
7, Chris is.
Show Berlin Turnpike, added this back onto the mix. Wasn't sure if there was any particular items that you had in mind, Ed, at this point, or if you'd like, we can keep it on.
Well, yeah, I asked Chris to put this on every agenda. Okay, if there's just a small item to be mentioned and so forth. And I'm sure on occasions there's nothing to be said. The Adios project,
Yes,
what's the status of that?
sure. He was looking to get a cut through and a light from
Yeah.
DOT.
Is that progressing or?
I believe it is progressing. As I understand it, the town essentially was told to hold off on any building permits, et cetera, until that was organized. That was figured out. I believe they're finalizing it. At this point, I think he's supposed to get back to the planning office to let them where things are with that. But I did see, it looked like there was some activity again after not seeing anything for a while, but that was the real holdup, because he had to work with the Office of State Traffic. Something, right?
Yeah. So that would have a light there?
That was his intent, yeah, to get basically a left turn into his project.
Oh, okay.
But. The property is for sale.
Project?
The property.
He's had that, I don't even know if that's real, he's had it there so long, I don't even, but yeah, it could be, I don't even know.
How's the project?
I didn't say the project, the property, if you go to LoopNet, you ever been to LoopNet?
Yeah.
Look it up.
For the, speaking of which, Mr. Sisti also found out and informed me that one of the Chamberlain highways also for sale, not the one getting Dollar Tree, the other one. $300. It's interesting.
I just looked at LoopNet.
Yeah, I have not heard from Mr. Harrison once in a while, so I don't know exactly what that means. It's actually yeah, Chamberlain, where Nelson is packaged.
Oh, that place is for sale?
I saw it online. Again, I wouldn't necessarily believe everything you read online, but
Yes.
Maybe they didn't take it down. Maybe,
yeah,
I don't
who
know.
knows?
Maybe they both were accidentally put up. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because if they're starting a project and they're trying to just sell the land, you already have a project that started. Who knows?
Yep.
You know, it's on LoopNet.
All right, item 8 on the agenda, we gotta set the calendar for next year plus January, and
Yes.
so the second to the last page. We gotta have this at the 8 wall by the end of the month.
Yes.
So there's a whole list here of dates. And we sort of have to approve the dates that, right, so also.
I'm sure I screwed one of these up, we'll have to pay for last week's a good example, I didn't know we weren't there.
Is Monday, September 4th, Labor Day?
Yeah, you had Labor Day on here, which I just changed in my calendar to the 11th.
Okay, 11th.
Okay, 11.
Hold on, I fixed them all on my calendar, but there were a couple of. Tell you what they were. Calendar.
July 3rd.
Fourth Tuesday. Yeah, oh, it's gonna be open on Monday.
Yeah, I don't think,
I'll be gone, I'll be home.
Okay, we'll call it July 10th then. That makes more sense. Yeah.
Is it that? If this is the fifth, seventh would be the 12th, whatever, July.
July 3rd.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, you're right.
Just checking to see.
Yeah,
I'm looking at your waste job.
Okay. So September we're changing,
Yes,
yeah, September, that's Labor Day.
okay, so what are we changing that to?
11th?
It's the 11th, move it a week.
July, you change.
Is there any 9/11 events or anything that anybody would be expected to be at on the 11th of September?
Not in the evening, if they did the events, it probably would be during the daytime. Good thought.
So those are the only two we have to do. Do we have any other?
No, it's curveball to the curveball. They're always.
June 5th. July. That one. We already fixed to the 10th. People texted me. That away. August, we don't have a meeting, but if we do. It's on the 7th. Right. September.
Yeah, why don't you change that one? Cause I'm away and I know Camp's away. August. Do August 14th on that?
Sure, why not?
Is that all right, guys?
Sure.
You tell me now. 14. Dave. Okay. September. September was the 11th. I thought there was one more change. Let me look. Please text. The 2nd of October, we're gonna stay with that in the first week. It's fine with me, I'm just saying it.
No, that works. Yep, November, we always move it away from the election, just because I don't wanna have to be doing a meeting the night before the election. I couldn't tell you what the election is, I just went, okay. The Instagram's the menu to watch out. 994 followers. Pretty cool. Six more people.
It's 404.
404 is at the end of
403 and 405.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
No.
Better get home.
Probably will work.
It's happening on West Smoky today, too, that's Wednesday.
Oh.
Oh, November 13th.
We heard
Okay.
the greatest joke about what it would be today if Smoky had been. It literally was like Nick Jonas having to drive carrot juice across Seattle in a fuel efficient hybrid at 45 miles. Oh, I almost beat myself. I was laughing that hard as all the interest was. I can't remember what.
There was parts of that movie that was so good. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, South of the East.
Can't believe it from my loins.
Alrighty.
Yes, it was, right, the rest of them are right.
All right, the rest
So
of
the only changes were July 4th to the 10th and September 4th to the 11th.
I'll get that to 14. Yeah, so February 6th, March 6th, April 3rd, May 1st, June 5th, June 10th, August 14th, September 11th, October 2nd, November 13th, December 4th, January 8th, 2024. Thank you, Chris, for pointing out the fact I didn't write 23. I normally do every time.
we need a motion to approve the
Oh,
calendar.
yes, thank you.
Mr. Pope makes the motion, second somewhere. Mr. Bosch, second, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I oppose, abstain, okay, I have 9, commissioner comments.
Officers. Thought we had to do it in February, but I was told by the town clerk's office today, they would like us to do it in January.
We always do it in February.
That's what I thought too. You know what, let's just put it on the ball. Yeah, it's fine. We should obviously do it in February. Commissioner, I was gonna say, you know, maybe forgot, but who are you? Thanks for coming.
All right.
So he owned all the army trucks behind next door to the Ave.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
And there's a bunch of them down in Liam's
Liam, yeah.
property. I don't know if he had to move them out of Liam's or not, but. I met him once. The truck's nice guy, I don't know what he was here for.
Hear what's happening?
okay, item 9, are we?
That's kind of what it is.
Just a couple things, I have 9, first of all, there's that flyer I got, this is for that, group that I mentioned to all you guys. Having a first event. Send your $10 in, come on down. You have pretty much everyone there.
And we got a RSVP by tomorrow. Today.
No, don't worry about it.
I've got that on my list for RSVP.
I gotta figure out how to do that.
I don't know.
Oh, they're gonna give you that month, that goes up.
You can show up at the door.
So.
But just show up. We're looking for bodies. Yeah, Ramsey sponsoring.
What day of the week is the 18th?
Wednesday.
Put your words there.
Feed him too. He likes bonus money.
That whole Brookside thing, my only comment, we can do it after the fact if you want.
Yeah, why don't we adjourn and
Okay, and then,
motion.
Okay, motion adjourned somewhere, Copeland, second somewhere. Second. Bosch, for discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,